Hey, this is Mr. Ford. I will be doing questions 1 through 15 on the Algebra 1 EOC study guide. Okay, so question number 1 says a system of equations is graphed below. Remember, a system of equations is when we have more than one equation. Okay, so the solution to them is anywhere where they cross. Okay, so anywhere where the two equations cross on the graph. So in this case, it's going to be 410, and 7.75. Okay, so I know my answer has to be C because that is where they cross. Okay, so make sure you put C on that one. Okay, number 2 says which of the following are factors of the equation when written in factored form? Then it says select all that apply. Okay, so on these, right, all I want you to do first is get everything on the same side. Okay, so to do that, I need to subtract 3a from this side. Okay, so what I do to the right, I have to do to the left. Okay, so now I have 2a squared plus 5a minus 15 is equal to minus 3. Now I have to add 3 to both sides because what I do to the left, I have to do to the right. Okay, so these will then cancel out. So then I will get 2a squared plus 5a minus 12 is equal to 0. Now this is going to be a little new. What we've been talking about in class is whenever I have something that looks like this, but now I'm adding a coefficient in front of the squared number. Okay, so here's how I'm going to do this. So I'm going to factor this out. I know it's going to look something similar to this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a 2a here and an a here because 2a times a is 2a squared. Okay, then it's the same game that we've been playing, and I need two numbers that multiply to get 12 and add to get 5, but the difference is we have a 2 here now, and I'll show you what that does. So the first thing I'm going to do is list out my factors of 12. So I have 1 and 12, I have 2 and 6, and I have 3 and 4. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to try 3 and 4. So let's try 3 and 4. Okay, so if I plug a 3 in here and a 4 in here, here's what I would do. I would check my 2 and my 4, and I say those two things multiplied together give me 8. And 3 and 1 multiplied to give me 3. So then I ask myself, can I get 5 out of 8 and 3? And the answer is yes. And I say, which one of those has to be negative? And I know it has to be the 3, because 8 minus 3 is 5. So this is going to be our answer. So our answer is going to be 2a minus 3 and a plus 4. So I know my answer has to be B, and it looks like D. Okay, so that's number 2. Okay, number 3 says Kelly recorded the amount of money she earned, Y for hours, and for hours worked, X in the table shown below. Select the words that correctly complete the sentences. Okay, so here's our chart. This is how many hours she worked. This is how many dollars she earned. Okay, so this one here says the function is, and we're going to say increasing. So increasing because the numbers are going up. It's literally increasing. Okay, the next thing it says is the function is, and we're going to say this is linear because it's going up by an even amount every time. So to go from 3 hours worked to 4 hours worked, we go up by 15. Okay, and I skipped 2 in here, but if I had to, it would be $30. So it would go up by $15 each time. So I know it's linear because it's constantly increasing. The y-intercept is whenever we have a 0 here. So all I do is I go backwards 15, so I know it would have to be 0, 0. So 0, 0. Okay, question 4 says the table shows the distances that the schools will travel to attend a field trip to the state capital. School 7 has to travel only 15 miles. So I'm going to add school 7 to this. And it has to travel 15 miles. Okay, if this is the outlier, or if this outlier is added to the data, which is true about the statement about how it changes the data table. Select all the statements that apply. Okay, so I'm going to look at these and I'm going to ask myself which of these statements are true. So number A, or letter A, says the data is less spread. So we know that can't be right because we just added one that's significantly different than all of these. So we know it can't be A. It says the data is more spread. Well, that one seems like it would work. So the data is more spread. Okay? All the other ones have to deal with mean, median, and mode, and I believe that we can do those ourselves. So our answer is going to be F on this one. So it says the median stays the same and the mean changes. Okay? So remember, median, right? So if you're taking notes, median is the middle of the data. All I would do is I would organize these numbers from least to greatest right here, and I would find what is in the middle. Okay, the mean is the average of everything, right? And I add everything up and divide by the number of terms, and the mode is the most frequent number. Okay, so our answers on 4 are going to be B and F. Okay, question 5. It says the formula for the area of a trapezoid is A equals 1/2 times base 1 plus base 2 times the height. Then it says solve for B1. So which equation is correct for the value of B1? So all we need to do is solve for B1. So I'm going to rewrite this. A equals 1/2 times B1 plus B2 times height. Okay, so I have to solve for B1. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is try to figure out what I can do to the right side so I can get B1 by itself. So immediately, here's what I'm going to notice. I can multiply both sides by 2. Okay, so whenever I do that, this 1/2 here is going to go away. So watch this. So when I multiply A by 2, I get 2A. But when I multiply this by 2, the 1/2 just goes away. So I'm left with B1 plus B2 times the height. Okay, the next thing I need to do is get rid of the H. So I divide both sides by H. So I'm left with 2A divided by H equals B1 plus B2. Okay, then I still need to get B2 by itself. So I just subtract B2. So I say 2A divided by H minus B2 equals B1. I say which one of those looks like it, and it looks like it is going to be B. So it's B. Okay, number 6 says the square, or the area in square units of a rectangle is represented by 6x cubed minus 2x squared plus 4x. It says if the width in units is 2x, what is the length in units? Okay, so if I had a square like this, that's not a square. If I had a square like this, I said one side is 2x, and the other side is something I don't know, and the whole thing, the area, is equal to this. I'm trying to figure out what this is equal to. Okay, so let me erase that really quick. Okay, so I say to get from 2x to 6x cubed, right? From 2x to get to 6x cubed, I have to multiply it by 3x squared. Okay, to get from 2x to minus 2x squared, I have to multiply it by minus x. And to get from 2x to plus 4x, I have to plus 2. So I know my other expression is going to be 3x squared minus x plus 2. And that's my answer. So that's number 6. Okay, number 7 says, which student correctly solved this expression? So number 7. Okay, it says, which students correctly solved this expression? So the first one says, Joe says the answer is this because the exponents should have been added. Kira says the answer is x to the 2/7 because the exponents should have been added. Alex says the answer should have been x to the 7/12 because the exponents should have been multiplied. And Tracy says that the exponents should have been multiplied as well. Okay, what you need to remember is that when we multiply exponents or multiply numbers that have the same base, I add the exponents, right? So I add the exponents. So to do that, I have to make my denominators the exact same. Okay, so on this one, I multiply everything in this exponent by 4. Okay, so now this becomes 4 over 12. And I multiply everything in this exponent by 3. So this becomes 3 over 12. So then I just add them. So I say x to the 7 over 12. So I know that Joe has to be right. Okay, number 8 says this is the graph of y equals f of x. Which of the following is the graph of y equals 2 f of x minus 1? Okay, so in these sort of equations here, okay, whenever I multiply it, it actually gets skinnier. So we're looking for a graph that gets skinnier, and we're also looking for a graph that goes down 1. Okay, so I look at all of my options, and I say, well, C gets skinnier, and B looks a little bit skinnier, and D looks a little bit skinnier. Okay, but I'm just trying to move down 1. Okay, so I know it's not A. B moved up 1, so I know it's not B. Okay, D actually moved to the right, so the only one that's left is C. And look, it gets skinnier, and it also moves down 1. So I know it has to be C. So 8 is C. 9 says a residual is defined as the difference between the actual value of the dependent variable and the value predicted by the model. So which graph best represents a relationship that minimizes residuals? So here's what I'm trying to find. I'm trying to find a graph that has dots that are pretty much similar to the actual line. Okay, so I ask myself, I say I have all these dots here, and I have a line. So are those dots close to that line? I'm going to say no. Okay, here's the next one. So I have this graph here. I say, are these dots close to that line? And I say no. Okay, then I have this graph here. I say, are these dots the same as this line? And I say absolutely not. Okay, so that leaves me with D because these dots are pretty much right on course with that line there. So 9 should have been D. Okay, 10 says the ordered pairs in the table are possible solutions to the given equations. So it says match each ordered pair to the equation for which it is a solution. Ordered pairs may be used more than once. All you're going to do is plug in these values into these and see if they work. And if neither of them work, then you write neither. Okay, so for this one, I know that -5, 0 is going to belong to this one. Okay, I know that 0, 2 will belong to this one. Okay, I know that 0, 2 will also belong to this one. 1, 6 will belong to this one. And 0, -5 will belong to neither of them. So like I said, all you need to do is plug in the x value for x and plug in the y value for y and see if it's equal. Okay, so that's all you do for those. So you'll use your calculator for those. Okay, so that's 10. Number 11 says a police department captured 30 speeds on radar and organized their data in the box plot shown below. Okay, what can be inferred from the data? Select all that apply. Okay, so I say the mean is equal to the median. Well, I don't really know that, so I know it can't be A. Okay, it says the mean is probably less than 30 miles per hour. I say that's probably true because the majority of my space over here is less than 30. So I'm going to circle B. Okay. C says the mean is probably more than 30 miles per hour. I know that can't be right as well. Okay. D says if an officer captures an additional speed of 70 miles per hour, the mean must change. Okay. So I say that's going to be true because that's an outlier and that's going to change our data completely. Okay, and E says if an officer captures an additional speed of 70 miles per hour, the median must change. We don't know if that's true or not, so we are not going to circle that. So just B and D. Okay, number 12 says which equation completes a square to create an equivalent to that equation there. Okay, so we've not gone over this, but you might see it on the EOC. So here's a little crash course in how to find the perfect square or how to complete the square. Okay, so here's my equation. X squared plus 10x plus 13 equals 0. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move the 13 to the other side. So I have x squared plus 10x equals minus 13. Completing the square, so completing the square, means that I take this middle term and I divide it by 2, and then I square it. So 10 divided by 2 is 5, and 5 squared is 25. So if I add 25 to this side, I also have to add 25 to this side. So my new equation looks like this. X squared plus 10x plus 25 is equal to 12. Okay? And if you look over here, all of these have numbers by them, so we're going to leave those there. So I know right away it can't be C and D. Okay, but then I can factor out this side here. So I know this one has to be x plus 5 and x plus 5 because 5 times 5 is 25 and 5 plus 5 is 10. Okay, so I know my answer is going to have to be B. Okay, so here's 13. It says which of the equations are represented by the graph below? Okay, so I have my graph here. Okay, so I have to choose here out of all of these which ones are going to be equal to this. So here's what I'm looking for. Okay, I'm looking for any of these that I could plug these points into and that it would work. Okay, so if I were to plug in, for example, if I were to plug in 2, 0 into A, right? So I would get 0 equals 2 minus 2 times 2 minus 4. And that would be 0 equals 0 times minus 2. Okay, and anything times 0 is 0. So I'd say 0 equals 0. I would say that's absolutely true. So I would circle A. Okay, and I would do those for all of them. And I would get A, B, and D for my answers there. Okay, so I could spend time factoring if I wanted to. But if I was taking this test, I would just plug in my points and see what works. Okay. Moving on. 14 says the graph of a linear equation is shown below. Basically, just write the equation. Okay, so let me refresh your memory on how to do this. the first thing I'm going to do is see where it crosses the y-intercept. Okay, so I know that's at 5. Okay, so my equation is going to be y equals something plus 5. The next thing I need to do is find the slope. Okay, so I'm going to put my dot on another point on the grid that crosses one of these like intersections on a grid. Okay, so I say this goes down 1, 2. Okay, so it goes down, so minus 2, and it goes over 1, 2, 3. So it goes over 1, 2, 3. And it's always an x there. Okay, so I know my equation is y equals minus 2/3 x plus 5. Okay, so that is my equation. Okay, all right, the last one for today, okay, is number 15. So it says the quadratic function f of x is shown in the graph below. If the graph of f of x is moved left 4 units and down 2 units, what would be the equation for the new graph in vertex form? Okay, so here is what we're going to do. Okay, so here's my function. I know it has to go down 2 units. So it has to go down 2 units, right? So I already know it's at 3. So it's up at 3, and it goes down 2 units. Okay, so I know it has to be at 1. So the only one that's at 1 is D. Okay, but it moves to the left 4 units. Okay, so I could spend time working that out, but if you know that it goes down 2 units, I just know that my point is going to be at 1. So D is your answer on that one, and that is all I have for you guys in this video.